Alright, welcome back to the channel. Warhammer Man back in the studio, and today we're taking a look at some new reveals for the squats, or should I say leaks. That being said, if you're new to the channel, make sure to like and subscribe for Warhammer 40,000, Kill Team Necromunda, Age of Sigmar, Warcry, Horus Heresy, reactions, reviews, news, painting, modeling, conversion tutorials, pretty much anything to do with Games Workshop and their games. That being said, let's jump right in. So obviously we have the squats coming out here soon. We have seen a couple of models, and now we have some of our first rules leaks. So here we see the cover of the Leagues of Votann cards here. If we go ahead and check out our next one here. So we basically have our stratagems and our psychic powers as well. So I'm not going to read through like the little fluff part on each one. Just the actual rule part, and we're going to do a little rundown. First thing I noticed right here is we have 1 and 2 command point stratagems, so very cool. Let's take a look. So we have Hunter's Mark first. Use this stratagem in your shooting phase before making a hit roll for an attack made by a Votann model from your army. If the target unit has 1 or more judgment token, do not make a hit roll for that attack. It automatically hits the target. So we don't know what judgment tokens are. We do know that this is for any Votann model, and it's basically just giving you like an auto hit by expending one of those tokens. Oh, maybe not even expending it. It looks like they just already have a judgment token, and then you just get 1 automatic hit. So pretty cool. Next we have Kin Bond. Use this stratagem at the start of the fight phase. Select 1 enemy unit that is within engagement range of 2 or more Votann core units from your army. Until the end of the phase, each time a Votann core model makes a melee attack against the unit, you can reroll the wound roll. So you pick 1 enemy unit, you have 2 of your Votann core units within engagement range, and you can reroll all of your wounds. Very cool for 2 command points. Next we have the Might of the Einherjar. Use this stratagem in your shooting phase when the Einherjar unit from your army is selected to shoot, or the fight phase when an Einherjar unit from your army is selected to fight. Until the end of the phase, each time a model in that unit makes an attack, add 1 to that attack's hit roll. So 1 command point plus 1 attack for that phase. Optimized Volley. Use this stratagem in your shooting phase when a Votann unit from your army is selected to shoot. Until the end of the phase, each time a model in that unit makes an attack with a bolt weapon on an unmodified hit roll of 6, 1 additional hit is scored. If the unit contained 11 or more models when the stratagem was used, then 2 additional hits are scored. So exploding 6s for a command point in the shooting phase. And then if they have 11 or more models in their unit, double exploding 6s. So 1 hit actually becomes 3 hits. So that is pretty awesome, obviously, for hordes, especially if we see like resurgence of like big tyranid hordes or something like that. Alright, next we have Familial Loyalty. Use this stratagem in your opponent's charge phase. Select 1 Votann infantry or Votann biker unit from your army. Until the end of the phase, that unit is eligible to perform heroic intervention as if it was a character. Light them up. Use this stratagem in your shooting phase. After a Votann, I can't quite tell what that says. It looks like Starklight unit from your army has resolved its attacks. Select 1 enemy unit that was hit by 1 or more of the unit's ranged attacks that phase. If every unit in your army is the same league, excluding unaligned, the selected enemy unit gains 1 judgment token. Okay, so basically, it's sort of like a marker light. You hit them with this, you spend a command point, give them this judgment token, and then we know already that you could basically use a free hit if a unit has a judgment token. I'm sure there's going to be other cool stuff as well. So we know how you can get a judgment token now, similar to like a marker light, and the stratagem is called Light 'em Up for 1 command point. Luck has Need Keeps, Toil Earns. Interesting. Alright, so use the stratagem at the end of the movement phase. Select 1 Votann core infantry unit from your army that is within range of an objective marker. Until the start of your next movement phase, while the unit is within range of an objective marker, the unit automatically passes morale tests Unless that unit makes a ranged attack or declares a charge, it can ignore any rules that would cause any actions they are performing to fail. Each time a model in that unit would lose a wound, roll a d6. On a 6, that wound is not lost. So immune to morale, 6-up shrug, and nothing can interfere with them performing actions. So that is pretty cool. Obviously, as we see more and more things that like cancel actions. Mag Riders. Use this stratagem in your opponent's shooting phase. When a Votann biker unit from your army is selected as the target of a ranged attack. Until the end of the phase, each time an attack is made against that unit, subtract 1 from the attack's hit roll. If that unit has advanced during the previous turn, the attack's hit roll cannot be rerolled. So Votann bikers get -1 to hit for a command point. And if they advanced, you can't reroll the hit roll. So pretty cool. Next we have Newfound Nemesis. Use this stratagem when a Votann warlord or can't quite make out the next word. Model from your army is destroyed. The enemy unit that destroyed that model gains 2 judgment tokens. If your destroyed model is a Grimnet, the enemy unit gains 3 judgment tokens instead. Alright, so when they kill one of your warlords or presumably some other important character or unit, they gain 2 judgment tokens, and if they killed a again, I can't quite see, it's a little bit blurry, you would gain 3. So obviously stacking these judgment tokens could be useful. Outflanking Pioneers. Use this stratagem at the start of your movement phase. Select one Hernkin Pioneer unit from your army that is more than 6 inches away from any enemy models within 6 of any battlefield edges. If the mission you are playing is using strategic reserve rules, place that unit in strategic reserves. The unit cannot arrive from strategic reserves in the same turn it is placed in strategic reserve. So at the end of your movement phase, you basically can remove one of your Pioneers units from the table as long as it is more than 6 away from any enemy models and within 6 of the battlefield edge. So similar to that Tau stratagem for like ghost kills. It can be useful for like replacement, especially in an army like this where you're going to be a little bit slower. You know, you might need that crucial redeploy somewhere else, and for 1 command point, here it is. A well-ordered retreat. Use the stratagem in your movement phase. When a Votann core unit from your army falls back, the unit is still eligible to shoot in a turn even though it fell back. So for 1 command point, you can fall back and shoot. Next we have In the Right Hands. Use this stratagem before the battle when you are mustering your army. If your warlord has the Votann keyword, select 1 Votann character model from your army and give them an ancestral relic. Must be a relic they could have. Each relic in your army must be unique, and you cannot use this stratagem to give a model more than 2 relics. Oh, to give a model 2 relics. You can only use this stratagem once unless you are playing Strike Force Battle, in which case you can use it twice, or Onslaught, in which case you can use it 3 times. So you can get up to 3 relics in a normal 2,000 point game. Bequest of the Votann. Use this stratagem before the battle. Select 1 Then or Hesir model from your army. That model can have one of the following ancestral relics, even though they are not a character model: the Grey Crest, Grudge's End, the Hearthfist, Warpestric. Each relic in your army must be unique, and you can only use this stratagem once. So that is pretty neat. You can actually give one of these specific relics to a non-character model. So it could be like a squad leader or something like that. So that could be useful on, you know, like a durable unit of, you know, exosuits or something like that. Pretty neat. And then Legends of the League. Use this stratagem before the battle when you're mustering your army. If your warlord has the Votann keyword, select 1 Votann character model from your army and determine 1 warlord trait for it. This must be a warlord trait it can have. The model can only regard your warlord for the purposes of the warlord trait. Each warlord trait in your army must be unique. You cannot use this stratagem to give a model 2 warlord traits. You can only use this stratagem once unless you're playing Strike Force, in which case you can use it twice. And then, of course, in Onslaught, you can use it 3 times. So we see extra relics, extra warlord traits, and then the ability to basically pay a command point and give a relic to a non-character. And we know also that there are basically restrictions typically on these pre-battle ones, because you can use them as many times as you want, so the card will have to tell you the restriction. Here we see for the bequest of the Votann, the ancestral relics, there's only a handful of them. The Great Crest, the Grudgeous End, the Hearthfist, and Warp Estric. So there's 4 of those. Yeah, oh, it does say you can only use this stratagem once, so you can pick one of those to give to one of your non-character squats. So pretty cool. Next we have, some more battle tactic stratagems. Accelerated response. Use the stratagem in your movement phase. When a Votann accelerated unit from your army is selected to advance until the end of the phase, add 12 to the move characteristic of each model in that unit. It's not cumulative with other bonuses provided by steady advance ability. So an auto advance 12 for Votann accelerated unit. That is pretty cool. Obviously the auto advance 8 is big for tyranids. Use this stratagem, Ancestral Sentence. Use this stratagem in your shooting phase when a Votann unit from your army is selected to shoot, or in the fight phase. When a Votann unit from your army is selected to fight. Until the end of the phase, each time a model in that unit makes an attack against a target that has 1 or more judgment tokens, you can reroll the hit roll. So shooting or fighting, 1 command point. They have a judgment token already. You can reroll the hit roll. Pretty good. Core Buster Fire Pattern. Use this stratagem in your shooting phase after an enemy unit is hit by an attack made by a beam weapon fired by a Votann model from your army. Till the end of the phase, each time the enemy unit is hit by another attack made by a beam weapon fired by a Votann model from your army, roll a d6. On a 4+, the enemy unit suffers 1 mortal wound in addition to the normal damage. A unit can only suffer a maximum of 6 mortal wounds per phase due to the stratagem. So you need at least 7 beam weapons. We don't know who takes beam weapons, but you hit them with 1 beam, and then you hit them with a bunch more beams, and on a 4-up, they take a mortal wound up to 6. So ideally, you want 1 to trigger the stratagem, and then you want 12 more beam weapons to hit them with, because there's a 50% chance of them doing a mortal wound. So if you have 12 of those, you'll do the max 6 mortal wounds. So again, cool stratagem. A lot of these are very specific, and we don't know the keywords or like the units from the army yet, so don't know exactly how they're going to interact. Cyber Stim Infusion. Use the stratagem in the fight phase. When a Votann Berserker unit from your army is selected to fight, until the end of the phase, each time a model in that unit makes a melee attack, you can reroll the hit roll. So lots of cool abilities. Pretty standard stratagems. We obviously see a little something different that we've never seen before with the tokens. But we'll find out in time what that is. It's cool that a lot of these armies are having like similar abilities and ways the stratagems and units can interact with them. So on to the psychic powers. Interface Echo. There are 6 psychic powers here. So this one is a blessing. Interface Echo has a warp charge value of 5. If manifested, gain a command point. The limit of gaining or refunding 1 command point per battle round does not apply to a command point gained via this psychic power. Wow, that's really good. So you pay 5, manifest this psychic power, and if you get a warp charge value of 5, you gain a command point, and then you can still gain and refund command points, even though you already triggered the bonus command point. So that could be really strong, especially as we go into what we assume is going to be like the changes from what Games Workshop has said so far. Instead of getting all your command points up front, you're probably going to get like half your command points up front, and instead of getting 1 per turn, you get 2. So in this case, the squats obviously would get half their command points up front. Let's say, 10 would be their normal command points. So they would get 5 up front, and then they would get another 2 per turn, plus a bonus 1 per turn from this, plus the ability to potentially refund or gain another command point on top of that. So they could be starting with, say, 5 command points, and then they could be gaining 2 naturally from the new rule set, 1 from this stratagem, and then 1 from somewhere else. So they could basically be gaining potentially 4 command points per turn, while most people are gaining 2 or possibly 3. So again, could be a strong advantage. Fortify is next. Blessing. Fortify has a warp charge value of 6. If manifested, select one friendly core or character unit within 12 inches of the psyker until the start of the next phase. Next psychic phase. Add 1 to the toughness of models in that unit. Roll 1d6 each time a model in that unit takes a wound. On a 6-up, the wound is not lost. So +1 toughness and a 6-up shrug. That's pretty cool for a character or a core unit. Ancestral Wrath, Witchfire. Ancestral Wrath has a warp charge value of 6. If manifested, select one enemy unit within 18 inches and visible to the psyker and roll 3 dice. If the enemy unit contains 11 or more models, roll 6 dice. In either case, add 1 to each result if the enemy unit has 1 or more judgment token on it. For each roll of 4 up, the enemy unit suffers a mortal wound. Okay, so you're going to roll 3 dice, or if they have 11 or more models, you're going to roll 6 dice. And you're looking for 4 ups to do a mortal wound, and then if they have a judgment token, it goes down to 3 ups. So realistically, if you roll 3 dice and you need 3 ups, you're probably going to get 2 mortal wounds on them. If you roll 6 dice and you need 3 ups, you're probably going to get 4 mortal wounds on them. So on average, you're going to do 1.5 to 4 mortal wounds with this. Not bad. It's similar to like what a lot of other armies have. Next we have Grudgepire, Witchfire. Grudgepire has a warp charge value of 4. So really low castings on these so far. If manifested, select one enemy unit that is not a vehicle within 18 and visible. Roll 2d6 and add the number of judgment tokens that are next to that unit to the result. If the result is greater than the unmodified leadership characteristic of that unit, one model selected by your opponent in that unit is destroyed. So you can't do it to a monster, you can't do it to a character, and you can't do it to a vehicle. So you can hit some decent things with this. And then if you hit a small unit that has, say, 1 guy left in it or only a handful of guys, they're going to have less decisions. So 2d6, you're going to average a 7. You need it to be higher than their leadership. I think most things have a 7 plus leadership. So you really need to have some of your tokens on this thing. Some judgment. Which, we already saw one stratagem that can give a unit instantly 2 to 3 tokens. So if your average roll is a 7 and they have 3 tokens on them already, that puts it at 10. So realistically, they're pretty much losing a model. And then on top of that, you're going to just keep hitting them with the same psychic power every turn. So once you damage a unit and load it up with judgment tokens, you really have a way to get rid of them quick. Next we have Null Vortex, Malediction. Null Vortex has a warp charge value of 8, so this is our highest casting cost yet. If manifested, select one enemy unit within 12 of the psyker. Until the start of your next psychic phase, models in that unit cannot use any invulnerable saves. Alright, so that's really strong. Obviously, again, similar to like the Space Marine. Null Zone. You pick one unit within 12 though, instead of like a bubble effect. That's really good. So you're not taking away your own army's invulnerable saves. Only one single unit within 12. And until the start of your next psychic phase, they cannot take invulnerable saves. That's really strong. That's probably the best psychic power yet from them. And then Crushing Contempt. Malediction. Crushing Contempt has a warp charge value of 6. If manifested, select one enemy unit within 18 and roll 3d6. If the result is greater than or equal to the leadership characteristic of the enemy unit, until the start of the next psychic phase, that unit cannot perform actions. If the unit is currently performing action, it immediately fails. If the result is greater than the leadership characteristic of the enemy unit, until the start of your next psychic phase, each time a model in that unit makes an attack, subtract 1 from the attack's hit roll. Alright, so if... That's really strange how this is worded. Select one enemy unit within 18. And it says if the result is greater than or equal to the leadership characteristic. And then if the result is greater than the leadership characteristic. So if it's greater than or equal to, until the next psychic phase, that unit can't perform actions and it fails if it's already performing action. and that's greater or equal to on 3d6. So average, you're going to roll like a 10 or an 11. So that's most everything. And then the next bullet point is only if it's greater. So the first one is if it's greater or equal. Second is only if it's greater. If it is greater, the enemy is -1 to hit whenever they make an attack. So that would be shooting or combat. So very interesting. Obviously, see a little rundown of this stuff. The quality is not the best. Obviously, these are brand new leaks coming out. Definitely interesting. Nothing too crazy. I think overall, everything, the stratagems that we see here and also the psychic powers are right in line with other armies. There are some strong ones. There are some very specific case ones, and there are some broad range ones. I think the psychic powers are pretty good. Again, strong but not overbearing. I mean, realistically, the ability to... The real strong ones here are the ability to take away your opponent's psychic... invulnerable save. That's huge within 12 inches. That's very strong. So you're going to want to get some of your psychers who have this close to something important. And that is going to severely diminish its survivability. And then the interface echo is really good too. Gaining 1 command point just on a psychic test of 5 is very, very strong. Obviously you want to keep somebody in the back out of deny range and just start stacking them. The other stuff's pretty cool as well. A little more specific, obviously. And then we see the stratagems. We have, I didn't count them up initially. We have 4 pre-games, 7, 14, 18. Yeah, so we have 18 stratagems. So most of the armies we've seen so far have had more than 18 stratagems, like closer to 30. So maybe there's some here that we're not seeing. Maybe these are going to be a little on the lighter side. We don't know. But 6 psychic powers and a nice amount of stratagems. Very cool so far. Definitely looking forward to the squats. So far from what we've seen, the models look okay. I like the hover bike. I love the regular squat, but definitely want to see more of the range. Definitely looking forward to seeing more of the range. And we know it's coming. It's just a matter of time. So let me know what you think down below. Anything jumping out at you? Do you see some cool combos or something? Obviously, we're going to need to see a little bit more of the stats, the weapons, the rules, the models, and we can kind of develop on this. But obviously just trying to keep you guys informed. So let me know what you think down below. Are you excited for the Leagues of Votann? Are you going to be playing them regardless? Are you considering them? Are you going to pick up a couple because they just look fun to paint? Do you like the overall aesthetic of them and the lore behind it? Or are you more into the more traditional kind of squats from Necromunda and the Necromunda models we've seen so far? So far I really like all the models. I think there's some serious potential there. I think the Necromunda ones are really cool and a little more traditional, but doesn't mean I'm not going to like the new stuff. I think the hover trike is pretty awesome, so really excited to see some of the other stuff, especially the vehicles, flyers, etc. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up there. Hopefully you enjoyed the video today. If you do this kind of like leak video, reactions, reviews, news, pricing, anything from painting, modeling, conversion tutorials for Warhammer 40,000, Kill Team Necromunda, Age of Sigmar, Warcry, any of the stuff, Horus Heresy, if it's a Games Workshop, tabletop, wargame type situation, this is definitely a channel for you. Make sure to like and subscribe. It's absolutely free and definitely helps out. So, and for all the new subscribers out there, I appreciate each and every one of you, as it really does help us grow. We have an awesome community of like-minded people here with typically pretty good, overwhelming, positive attitudes, and we just try to keep it real. So that's it for today, Warhammer Man Studios. I'm Warhammer Man, and I'm out of here.